And we are live. Hi, everyone. So good to see you all. How's everyone's October 1st? I can hardly believe it's October. I don't know if everyone else is feeling the same way, but like, where did the summer go and where has time gone? It's crazy to me. But anyway, thanks for coming and spending your Saturday night with me, wherever in the world you happen to be. It might be a Sunday for you, but welcome, everyone. I'm going to have a really special guest on here a little bit later on. Yeah, my husband, you're going to get to meet him. So that's coming up. But for now, yeah, I got some questions here that I'm going to answer. Let me know if you're on. Type in the chat. I think you can all figure how to get to the chat, or some of you have had some technical issues with YouTube. Let me know if you're able to, where you're from. Yeah, I would love to. I always love knowing where in the world you are, where you're, and who I know on here. So, all right. I'm going to start off with a question about oversharing. Hi, Lisa. You're in Denver. I remember you. I'm so glad you're here and joining us. Okay, I'm starting with a question about oversharing. Oversharing. Who doesn't overshare, right? I mean, it's like exciting to start with the prospect of I've met someone and you're excited about him, you want to overshare, right? So I'm going to talk about that one first because I was reading through these briefly, and someone was talking about oversharing, and I have a lot to say about that. So, all right. So this is what she wrote. This is from a woman who recently received feedback that she's been oversharing in the early stages of a relationship. She thinks that this may have turned off a guy. She realized that oversharing is an attempt to create intimacy. Yes, it is. It's an attempt to bring everybody together. It's an attempt to go deeper in sooner. And it probably felt to him that I was breaching his boundaries and forcing myself on him in some way. This makes me feel really embarrassed and upset that I ruined things by not paying better attention to his signals. I'm going to talk about ruining things, okay? I would often leave our interactions wishing that I'd said less and asked more. How do I change this in the future? And is there anything I can do to repair this once it has already happened? I would be aware of him getting quiet when I would speak about certain things, but it would already feel too late, like I couldn't stop in the middle. And also somehow I would compulsively share sensitive things. I'm pretty ashamed for foisting myself on him like this. And it feels awful to feel like a creep in his life. He still likes me, he still talks to me, but is very definite about not being interested. I'm hoping we can still be friends, as the connection and friendship felt like the most real part. I do feel less attracted to him since he said he doesn't want to be with me, but he probably still thinks I'm wishing for something else. I miss how easy it felt, and I miss the totally harmless flirting. I wish I hadn't gotten so carried away. Sort of. The being carried away, having a crush was fun, but it started to get obsessive and unhealthy, just wanting to be with him and wanting to move things forward and wanting to know him better. I wish I'd been able to stay with the beauty of what was unfolding instead of getting caught up in what I was wanting. Now I'm afraid I've run roughshod all over the delicacy of the beginning of something. What do you think? Can I do anything to recover the relationship as a growing friendship? And how do I approach things so as not to do this in the future? Thank you. Okay. Okay. Oh, good, Heidi. Then I'm glad you're here listening to my oversharing question. Yes. Okay. And hi, Nancy. All right. So there's two things I want to say about this, because oversharing, I mean, welcome to my world. Yeah, I love sharing with anybody. And I did this in relationships, and I do this in friendships, and I do this with strangers, and I do this with everyone. And so I want to say something about this first off, because this is everywhere. I have always read about this from the time I've been trying to figure out what I was doing wrong. And I mean, this has been decades of being told don't overshare. You're reading too much into it, you're rushing too much ahead, you're pushing the intimacy, you're doing all this, you're going to drive a guy away with oversharing. Okay. And what I want to say about that is that the pivotal thing to know if you're oversharing is too much for real, or if it is who you are and how you meet people, and it is a part of the beauty of you and what makes you you. It is if you can own your oversharing. I don't even want to call it oversharing, but for identity purpose, it's helpful. But I don't even want to call it oversharing because it is connecting. It is connecting with people. It is creating a level of comfort, community, intimacy that people will jump on. Experts, therapists, people you've talked to, obviously, who've told you this, will jump on that and they will say, you're oversharing. That's your problem. Okay. So I will tell you that if you can own it, if you know this about yourself and you know that you share because you like to go deep and you like to create intimacy and comfort and safety so that someone feels comfortable talking to you, so that the two of you can get past just the mundane initial conversation. If you can own the fact that not everyone will be your person in this, that you will say, you will share, you will have people who look at you like, what's up with her? And look at you like you're crazy, like there's something wrong with you for this sharing. Okay. For your communication style. There will be people who judge that, who look at that, who want nothing to do with you because of it. But this is a really, really good way to find out if these are your people or not. Because I will tell you this, I meet people all the time, and I met people. I mean, in my single days, I met all kinds of people this way. And a lot of them were the wrong people for me, a lot of them. But it was because I was so open and I was so sharing and I was so an open book. And I loved creating that feeling. That was my communication style. That was the essence of me. That is how I had all the experiences I had. That is how I had the life that I had. And I was able to tell who were my people by that. So when you talk about oversharing, first of all, don't call it oversharing. Just call it sharing. Communication style, the essence of who you are. If you can own that, if you can own the fact that not everyone will love this part of you, that you will turn people off, that people will judge you, people will tell you, you're oversharing, that's your problem. People will look at you like, who is she? But if you can recognize that this is also what makes your life interesting, this is what allows you to meet people everywhere you go. This is how you're going to tell who your people are and who they're not. If you can own that, then I wouldn't change a thing. Because you are going to meet the right people this way too. Because if this is who you are, and this is not you putting on, if this is not you playing a role, and you actually share like this, you're going to have encounters that the crowd, the group that's telling you don't do that, they're never going to have. They're going to have reserved, structured relationships that follow structure, that kind of follow a beginning, a middle, and end, and the way they all, what you're supposed to do. Okay, rules. I don't think that's you. I think what I'm reading in here is that you're feeling ashamed, you're feeling embarrassed, you're feeling like this is on you, that there's something wrong with the fact that you're feeling shame and embarrassment and guilty for doing this and you want to go back and redo it. This is telling me that you're feeling what someone else is putting on you, because that's the shame, that's the embarrassment, that's the guilt. And I would not change this. And when we talk about that you feel like you might have put too much on him, let him set boundaries. Okay, if he's not comfortable setting boundaries, then that's an important thing for you to know, because you don't want to have to be checking the thermometer, checking the temperature of a relationship all the time, a friendship even, and trying to figure out, oh, am I saying too much? This is a setup for you to have to hypervigilance on your behavior. And that when you are someone who already is scrutinizing yourself and your actions, that is going to lead you to looking at every little detail. I mean, talk about ruminating over everything. You're going to be ruminating over everything and everything's cousin. I mean, everything you possibly say that comes out of your mouth, every nuance, every just any tone, every single thing you are going to be looking at. So the problem is not with you. The problem is specifically with who you're listening to and why they know more than you do. Because I will tell you, I consider my, if you want to call it oversharing for a label, okay? But I consider that quality in myself my superpower, right next to my sensitivity. Because there are so many times when my husband, who is not quite as forthcoming as I am, and other friends or people, they have thought that I am too much. But the experience that I have and the way that I'm able to find my people as a result, because I've learned not to wear this in shame, not to feel ashamed when I accidentally blurt myself out, because I'm so used to that, because that comes natural to me, because I love connecting and I love finding the stuff we have in common. And I love bringing people together. And it's because I share so much that people who have been holding back, but would like to have community, would like to connect, feel more comfortable with sharing and feel more comfortable with being in this world, because they don't feel so alone, that it brings something out of them. I love that. And so if you can change the critics, the voices that you're hearing that tell you not to do that, this will be your superpower as well. And as for this guy, okay, I would go back. I'll tell you what I think. If you remove the weight of these accusations that you're carrying, okay, you're holding this over yourself. I overshared, I ruined it, I wrecked it. No, you didn't. You found out more about this guy, because if he's not responding back to that, if he just wants friendship, and he was clear when you came right out and you had this interaction with him and you told him more, and so you shared so much that you also shared that you had a crush on him, okay? So if you did all that, you found out where he's at, and you found out that he just wants to be friends. And if it's a little bit awkward, you know what, that awkwardness you bring. Don't bring that awkwardness. If he wants to bring that awkwardness, if he's going to feel awkward, let it come from him. But take the awkwardness off of yourself. This is not you. This is not you. You did not make this situation awkward. You simply were yourself. You put out more of you. And I'll tell you this, it may be that this guy is not the right guy, but there will be a guy who loves this part of you, okay? Loves this part of you. Because for all someone might not be initially comfortable with that, these men, they're with you for this reason. Like the reason why, because you have this in common. I wish I could bring every woman on here who I've ever talked to who has come to me with this problem, right? With this problem that she overshares. And because she's been told this, because and we're looking for like the answer. What's the magic answer? Like what's the thing that we're doing that if we just stop doing it, we can neatly, tidily figure out what is this thing, then everything will get better. And so this is the problem. This is not the thing. It's not. This is the thing that actually helps you find your people all the time. All the time. This is how you find your people, and this is also how you find the people who are so not the people, your people who you want nothing to do with, because they will be the ones who look at you or offer you the advice that, oh, you shouldn't do that, or oh, that's what you're doing wrong. You know why a lot of them say that? Because they're embarrassed about that. They are uncomfortable. They are made uncomfortable because of that. It makes them feel uncomfortable. So they're projecting that onto you, and they're assuming that some guy is going to feel uncomfortable with it, when really for some guy who actually is curious about a different personality than his, or might have been told this too, or might feel extremely lonely in who he is and following the rules, and might find that through you, he might be able to let down his hair a little bit and become more of someone like you. Okay, there's a reason that we meet people who we feel chemistry with, whether they're friends, whether they're complete strangers, whether they're, whatever role. But I hope this is clear. I hope I'm making this so clear, that this sharing thing, if you can own it, if you can accept the fact that this is going to be the thing that people will either love you for, or they're going to have a problem with it, but it will determine if they're your people. And as long as you can own that, as long as you can own the part of it that not everyone is going to love you with this, and it may feel bad sometimes, like it may feel something, you may feel uncomfortable with it, or you may feel awkward with it, but if you can own the fact that this is you, and you love connecting with people, and you get excited with that, and you don't take on someone else's definition of what they're calling oversharing and what it means to them, then you wear your sharing, oversharing, whatever you need to call it, you wear it proudly, okay? Because the only thing that's going to make it come across weird is if you have an expectation afterwards that you sharing something is going to mean that they have to behave in a certain way after you share, that they have to have a certain response to it. And if they don't have a response, that's the response that you're expecting to validate this oversharing, then you feel bad. That is the only reason that you don't share like that, is if your expectation, if you can't own that without the expectation that they need to validate that, and you're looking for that validation from them instead of owning it, that this is who I am, and this is how I find my people and find out who are not my people, then keep on being you. Keep on being you. Okay? I got to that one. Thank you so much for asking that one. I got to that one, and I was so excited about that because I have so much to say on that. I literally met, finally, the piano teacher I'm looking for, the music teacher I'm looking for. I finally met. It's taken me years and years and years, because I learned to play piano in a real conservative, to play for my church. That was the boundary within which I learned to play the piano. I learned by a woman in our church so that I could play music in church. And so I learned chording, not all the conservative, Royal Conservatory thing. I learned the basics, but I've been looking for someone ever since, as I became an adult and realized I would love to rediscover music again, but I'd love to learn by ear, because I feel music more than I ever did as I've leaned into my sensitivity instead of, tried to shut it out and tone it down. So out of the blue, I'm on a patio eating lunch with my daughter, and there is a long story. We rescued a loose dog too. There was a whole story to this, but we sat back down, and there were some people who were sitting there. It was a mother and her daughter, and we had this conversation about this dog because I'm so excited that we were able to reunite this dog, and it was a real emotional story because this dog got off leash, and this dog anyway, it was such a deep. So I'm sharing, right? I'm sharing this story because I'm bubbling over with this. And this woman, we get into this conversation with this daughter who's just graduated university, and her mom, and we're talking about her degree and her what she's actually doing, and she's actually teaching music, and she starts saying something about her teaching and music, and I start sharing a little bit about, what kind of music? What do you teach? What's your style? And we lead into this whole conversation where her mom is like, you guys sound like you're on the same page. That's kind of how she teaches. And so we exchanged numbers. And so I'm gonna meet with her. So this is the oversharing. I could give you story after story after story of my own experience, but also the women that overshare. I could give you story after story after story of those, and to inspire you to keep oversharing for every single time that my family cringes because, oh no, Mom, you're going to say hi to another dog. The people I meet, my husband went to Penn State. We were literally just out and about in this, on a little place called Granville Island. It's a little touristy place, but we were literally on there just getting a bite to eat with my mom and her friend, and we pass, a woman comments on my dog, and she said something, and I was saying how, the dog was from California and how we adopted her and we lived in California, and she said, oh, is that where you're from? And I said, well, actually my husband's from Pennsylvania, and I'm from Vancouver. And she says to me, oh, we're from Pennsylvania. We're on a tour. And she shows me her name tag. We're on a train tour. We went all across from Penn State or from Pennsylvania. She says, and she shows me her tag. She says, we're Penn State alumni. Well, my husband went to Penn State. He's Penn State alumni. He hasn't met anyone up here from Penn State. And so literally we meet this busload because they're all excited, because I'm all excited, and then I get him all excited. And so this all happened because we were talking about my dog, and I love dog people, and I love talking about dogs. So anyway, I see oversharing examples all the time of how well how well that type of personality, where we talk, we get to know people, we do this, how well that works. That's going to find you your people. It may not have found you your guy yet, simply because you're holding this, you have this expectation that when you share like that, you should get something back. If you don't expect something back, if there is no expectation, if you remove that part, but you keep every bit of you, you are going to find what you're looking for, one way or another, if you remove just that expectation. Because I'm at the point now where it's like, yeah, this is how I find my people. Some people, I get the rolling eyes, sometimes it's my family rolling their eyes, but you know what? I meet so many people, and I meet the people who I'm meant to meet. And never a dull moment. So, all right. Next one I've got is Anne. I'm so glad you're here. And Nick's going to answer a part of yours too, because I know you asked him to answer something too. So he's going to answer part of yours. But I wanted to talk about the part that you wanted to talk about, because this is a quick, neat, tidy one. On this, I want to set the record straight on. So Anne wrote to me the question she had for me. She wanted to know, so how would you advise a woman in today's world to be authentic and express her desires about wanting to be available to take care of the home and the family, right? The homemaking part of it. Have a home-based business as well without feeling ashamed for not wanting a traditional work outside the home job. And what I want to say to you, Anne, on this one is that shame, and this applies to anyone, whatever you're feeling the shame about because you don't have naturally what this person thinks you should have, or what society says you should have, or what you are believing this person will want you to have in order for him to find you compatible, desirable, whatever, to want you in his life. That shame about whatever it is, and in this particular case, Anne, this shame for not wanting a traditional work outside the home job because somehow you're supposed to be able to pay your way half and you're supposed to be able to do that. That is your shame. That is the shame that you bring with you. And it's related to this oversharing thing. There is so much shame stuff that goes around that we don't ever call shame. We just call, I'm supposed to be this way. Well, no, you're not supposed to be this way. You're supposed to be who you are, and then you find the people that like who you are, that want who you are. This isn't I'm going to now pretzel myself into the mold that I am supposed to be because someone will like me better that way if I do that. No. That is the wrong way to go about it. So you remove the shame from this, and you are going to create a whole other thing here. It's going to create a whole other feeling. If you go into this relationship, if you go into whatever it is, and I think this is your existing relationship, if you go into that owning the fact that you are trying to carve out a different kind of life for yourself than is the mainstream run-of-the-mill, what everyone else does, okay? That you instead know what you want, you know what you don't, and you're going to do whatever you need to do to get that, to have that, and you're working on it. If it's a work in progress, it's a work in progress. Here's where I am. This is where I'm coming from. But this shame is something that you bring with it, okay? You bring the shame with you. So you need to get clear on whether or not there's room for you bringing who you are. And if there is not room for this, if this is on you, then this is something that you will make go away. You will resolve this. This is not even going to exist in your relationship unless you bring it. If you own it and you recognize that this is all yours, you bring the tone of this. You bring that there's even a discussion here. You bring all of this. Without you bringing it, he is just a guy who's happy to be with you. He's looking at you like, who is this person? Who is this person? I was coaching this woman. Let me give you a quick example here. I was coaching this woman. I've talked about this too, because we think we come to contribute, especially if we're with someone, you know, who has the money, the home, the practical, logical stuff that fits in today's practical, logical, you know, world. Right? So they've got the tangible, they've got all that stuff that fits in so well. So we can feel like, well, then I need to be bringing half. I need to be providing 50-50. I need to bring in my share. We need to be able to split everything down the middle, and I need to be able to come in with something to offer tangibly, something that's money, a part of, like, whatever you're bringing, right? Like, what am I going to bring? I got to bring something to matches. You know what? Unless your man explicitly is saying, I want you to contribute half of the finances. I want you to contribute half to, you know, if he's bringing it up, and even if he brings it up, then the question remains, does this work for you? I mean, that's still part of it. But if he's not bringing it up, don't you bring it up, because you're in there for other things. So what I want to tell you, this woman I was coaching, she had gone off on her own and she was starting this business. She was starting a business that was making a difference. It was a beautiful thing. She was basically trying to start a transportation company where she was taking a lot of these truckers who were being treated horribly, and she was in real estate. She was switching over to a whole different thing where she wanted to give something back. And she wanted to provide a new company for these truckers who were being, just horribly taken advantage of with longer hours and just all anywhere where the employer could push the rules. And she came into this, and she ended up, she was questioning because it was new, it was starting, she was just getting off the ground. And so she was saying, because he was established, he had the money, he had the house, she was staying with him, and he was the one who was covering all the expenses, and she had the startup that was just starting. She was getting financing for it. She was all in the throes of doing that, right? Becoming an entrepreneur, doing all this stuff, coming from a real estate background. So doing, and she, so many calls with me, she would say, but Jane, I feel like I'm not contributing enough. I feel like I'm less than. I feel like I'm not measuring up. I feel like this. And it was all within her, because literally I even got the two of them on the phone once on a call, and I clarified, is who she is this enough for you? And he said it. Yeah, I do the money piece. I've got the finances. I've got a home. We don't need two homes. She can, I love about her light, her dreams, her goals, her entrepreneurship here, her taking a chance on people who are normally, not treated that well, who are more marginalized, or just not, just what she was reaching out to try to do. He loved this about her. She wasn't in this for the money, and she wasn't the business, and anyway, my point being, those two, they made it, they were together. They're still together as far as I know. I mean, this has been a long time. And she had to deal with the fact that she was taking on this messaging that said she was supposed to be something. She was supposed to contribute something. And this is the way it was supposed to look like. And he had this expectation on her. So if he's not putting that on you, don't put it on yourself. That shame, that feeling of you're supposed to be something, be right where you are. If you're with someone who's right for you, he'll be really glad you're right where you are. And he won't expect you to be somewhere else. Okay? All right. Nancy's on here. Hi, Nancy. And if you type in your questions on the chat, we will get to them after. Nancy wants to know, how can she, okay, what I want to know is why the man I'm interested in can say he enjoys my company, but then I don't hear from him for days. How do I encourage him to communicate better? Okay, so here's the deal with that. Communication, I'm going to do a whole workshop on communication at some point, because communication has saved me and so many other women so many times, because everything is about communication. And so what I want to say about this is, first of all, why? I'll tell you why, okay? How can he say that he enjoys your company, but you don't hear from him? Because this is what works for him. He doesn't need more than this. This is what works for him. He is doing whatever works for him. So the why is it works for him. This is his comfort level. That's it. It's not more complicated than that. What is more complicated, but also fairly simple, I'm going to break it down for you. It's how you can encourage him to communicate better. Because if you understand that there is nothing wrong with you here, like, it's not that he doesn't like you, it's not that he doesn't like your company. He does like your company, but he likes it in this little box that he's got it in. He likes it compartmentalized in this shape, in this way. He likes it to look like this. So it means he enjoys your company, and not but, and He doesn't need constant connection with you. He doesn't need more. He doesn't need more. He's good with what he sees here. So how can you encourage him? So knowing that, first of all, I want that to put your mind at ease, that there is nothing wrong with you, because what is important here before you start communicating with him is the energy here. Okay. So the energy, your energy, your vibe, your understanding that will come, the communication will be so much better if you understand that there's nothing wrong with you here at all. Nothing. There is nothing wrong with you. He is simply doing what works for him, and this is what is comfortable for him, period. Okay. So your goal here is to allow yourself to just see that, to just accept that, and then to communicate with him from a place of, well, if I want more than he's able to give me, then I think what I need to be able to do is show him how I want this to go. Show him how I want this to look. So instead of, I mean, you've already got someone who's enjoying your company. So that means you're not in the very initial phase of getting to know someone, because that's a little different. We communicate a little differently with that. But with this guy, where you've already kind of got him, and at least you're having even conversations, you know, where he says he enjoys your company. So what I want you to do instead is, I want you to not communicate so much with words where you're just talking, because all the talk, it becomes like he just sees you talk, or he hears just talking. And he shuts it out. He shuts down. He doesn't listen. He's not hearing you. And he can't hear you because you sound like some woman who's trying to control him, which goes back into his programming, which has nothing to do with you, but goes back to his programming, which makes him not able to hear you. Okay? So I hope that's clear, because that's what he hears when you talk. So instead, you communicate by showing him what you want. So there was a woman once who was wanting this too, and she was feeling uncomfortable about taking the initiative, and she was feeling uncomfortable about how much she should participate and how much he should participate. And so what she did is, she knew he liked football. So when the game was on, she said, hey, I'm going to come over for, are you up for wings and dip? I'm coming over and I'm bringing over, or whatever it was, you know. So she said, how about, you know, how would you like some company for some, I can bring over some wings and dip and we can watch some football together. And she said that, and she said it with an energy that she wasn't looking for him to validate her. She recognized that she wanted to do that. And she thought, I mean, she did pick something that she thought he would probably be interested in. So she did set herself up to be shut down, right? She didn't want to be shut down with putting herself out there like that. And then she said it in a lighthearted way that wasn't going to demand really too much for him, except just to say, yeah, sure, sounds good. And she went over there, and I'll tell you what, she's married today to him. They're going on I think they're going on their 2-year anniversary. She's married. This is a woman in her 50s who had never been married before. Okay. And this is a guy who she wasn't sure. She was doing my coaching because she was not sure how to tiptoe around this guy, and she was afraid of like doing anything wrong. And so he, you know, wasn't sure. She was sending a lot of different signals because she was excited about him, but she was also wondering how to play by the rules. What was she supposed to do? Well, when finally she kind of threw out the rules and just went with, okay, if I don't go with the expectation of what it's supposed to look like, and I just go with kind of what I feel like, and I'm just going to play with this a little and make it a little bit fun and be herself and lean more into being who she is than worried about what she's supposed to be, they got off to a great start and things really worked. So that's what I would do. I would communicate more with your actions, more with a sense of lighthearted spirit. I would do all that rather than coming with some heavy conversation that he's not going to listen to. Okay? Do that. Try that, Nancy. Let me know how it goes. And that's with everything, you know, attitude, what you bring. It's the same thing. It's that it's more than confidence. It's expectations. Don't have expectations about what it's supposed to look like. Just go with, this is who I am, and this is how I like showing up, and I'm going to find out more about this guy. Okay? And do that. All right. The next one I've got is from Mavis. So Mavis wants to know why a guy would leave her after sincerely saying many times that I'm the best woman he's ever known or dated. But he's not attracted to me anymore. Anyway, at this point, I guess maybe I need to know how to stand out online. I've only had 2 dates in well over 2 years online. It's pathetic. Okay, first of all, stop calling this pathetic, okay? Everyone, we are right where we're at with our own comfort level, okay? So I don't know. I'd have to see your profile to know how you're standing or not standing out online, but I'll tell you this. What you want to do online is you want to create the story of you. Because if you're just a list of qualities and just a list of what you're looking for and just a list of who you are, if you're just that and there isn't like a story to who you are so someone can get a feel for you, it's going to be harder for them to distinguish you and for you to stand out. So that would be the first thing that I would change is I would or try to hone in on is what it's, and by that I mean instead of saying I enjoy doing this or this or this, make it fun, make it engaging. Like you'll find me in my favorite place, which is, you know, or tell a story. I mean, the more engaging that you are, because you are engaging. I mean, imagine some guys, you're on a date and you are engaging. You're talking, you're telling about you, you're doing all that. So this is what you're going to say. Okay. And Annabelle, I'll get to you. Yeah, I'll get to you next if you need to go to sleep. So this is all a part of that. Okay. This is how it works. So that's what you want to do is to, first of all, yeah, you want to tell the story of you. In words and in pictures, more than, don't do sexy photographs, don't do pictures that are all, you know, men really don't like that. They get so much of that. The good men who are actually looking for a relationship, they don't need that. They want some mystery. They love some mystery there. They want to know who you are, the essence of you. You think you're going to stand out by putting up all these sexy pictures? You know how many pictures they get? You know how many women are doing that? That does not set you apart. Leave some mystery there. Let it come through in other ways, okay? Let that be in there. But what I would say to your first part, okay, after he says many times you're the best woman he's ever known or dated, and then he can still leave you. Okay, well, it's because he's not the best man that he's ever been. So he does not feel like he is up to a relationship with you. This is actually way more common than you might think, because this is literally how it works. Okay? If he can look at you, you can be like the best thing that ever happened. You can be this light, you can be like this most incredible woman. He is thanking his lucky stars that he ever laid eyes on you, that he ever even had the opportunity to meet you. But he can also shoot you down. He can also not be ready for you. He can also walk away. Okay? He can also leave you because yeah, you're all that. But that puts pressure on him, because then he's got to be on his game. He's got to be better, or he feels that way. He feels that pressure. He doesn't know how to deal with it. He doesn't know how to handle that. So then he feels like he's got to be more. He's got to do more. He's got to be what he feels, this pressure. So it won't work. But not because of you, because he is not up for that. He can't do it. So he leaves because of him, not because of you. If you get one thing out of all that, it's that he leaves because of him, not because of you. He leaves because he can't be who you call him to be by being who you are. Okay? Because you raised the bar. You did what you're supposed to do. It means that this guy doesn't want to put in any real effort. He doesn't want to be the better man. And he can see that who he is not compatible with you. So believe him. Okay? If he's leaving, if he's opting out, he knows full well he can go to therapy. Okay? He knows he can dig deep into his stuff. I mean, you've probably made him aware of how much we all bring our own stuff, right? I mean, you've probably made a safe place for him. He knows he can go get help. He can get support. He knows you will support him through this emotionally, mentally, right? He knows. You've made it clear. You're loving, you're caring, right? You're giving, you're all this. If he's saying, what do you say? If he is saying that you're the best woman he's ever known or dated, but he's not attracted to you anymore. He's coming up with a reason to end this. Let him end with this. If that's all he can come up with, I mean, it's really a horrible thing to say because I would think he could come up with something better, but we're not him. And for him, better feels like saying, I'm not attracted to you. Okay. Maybe that feels like it'll end the conversation. You'll feel bad. And that's it. Okay. But this is not about you being attractive. You will be attractive to someone else. But if he's ending it with, I'm not attracted to you anymore, believe him. Okay. Don't believe that you're not attractive, but believe that this guy can't do it anymore because he is feeling pressure. He's not cut out to be with you. He can't do this, but don't take that on you. This is about him. Okay. And then what I would do, stop calling anything about you pathetic. Even you're being online and having 2 dates in 2 years. Okay. The reason why is because obviously you've been pining over this guy. You know how hard it is to move on after you've only had, one guy who's been on your mind, one guy. Forget circular dating, dating 3 people at a time or whatever. I mean, you've had this guy in your heart. There is no way that you are going to be able to move on and date and present yourself online and be available to someone else when you have been pining after this guy for that long. Okay. All right, Mavis, I hope you got that. All right, I'm going to take one here in the chat real quick from Annabelle because Annabelle had to go to sleep. And you're welcome, Annabelle. And I don't know where in the world you're calling from, but or calling in from, or what are we doing here? But yeah, I'm going to answer yours. So Annabelle says, does it ever make sense to let him know that I'm ready to be exclusive, or given that I know he's not ready, yet it's still the early days, should I wait for the actual exclusivity convo? Okay. This is what I would ask yourself. Do you really think that he does not know that you want to be exclusive? Like, do you really think that your body language, your actions, your tone, your who you are, like the essence of who you are, like, do you really think that there is a doubt in his mind that you're ready to be exclusive? Like, do you really think that he doesn't know that? That is the only time that I would ever let him know directly that you're ready to be exclusive. Except one caveat here. Okay, so I want to first say that. So if there's a bigger thing here, and that's the caveat where this comes in. So he already knows. He already knows unless he doesn't. If you're not sure, that's what I'm going to get to. Because the bigger thing that's going on here is that given that you know that he's not ready, the fact that you know that he's not ready, I would make sure that he knows. How early is it? See, this is the thing. It's still the early days. Like, if we're in the first 3-4 months, then you're still in the getting to know each other phase. And so we don't know if you're ready to be exclusive with him. We don't know if you are ready to be exclusive with him. You didn't hear that wrong. We don't know if you are. I want you to see for sure 3-4 months minimum before we know if you're ready to be exclusive with him. Because there's some getting to know him here. I'm more concerned about the fact that he's not ready. If you're ready and he's not ready, then that's a disconnect. And so because of that, I don't want you to be ready to be exclusive with him yet. I want you to be able to communicate with him around that time frame when you have known enough about him to know. So there's 2 points here, and this is the caveat. First of all, I want you to know for sure that this guy is a guy that you want to be, that you even want to be exclusive with. Okay, you need at least 3-4 months of seeing him. I don't want you to have a conversation with him where you're communicating that you are looking for something exclusive. And if you guys aren't on the same page, then you need to know that because you want to have everything up front. And so you want to make sure you're not wasting each other's time here. Okay, so that's that kind of a conversation that needs to come so I think this is the actual exclusivity convo, right? But that comes after you know that this is a guy that you for sure even want to be exclusive with, because you need at least that 3-4 months at a bare minimum to know if this is someone who you even want to have that conversation with. Because I don't want you wanting to be exclusive with someone. I don't want you to have that conversation with him and putting yourself out there like that if this is not a guy who really is compatible with you legitimately. Okay, so yeah, so I hope that makes sense. If you get to that after, you can let me know in the comments if I missed something there. But that's my take on that. That's how I would respond to that. All right. Next one here is from Lisa. Okay, and Lisa's question is, when I've known or met a true gentleman, is it okay to just ask if they'd like to grab some coffee sometime? Okay, so this has to do with initiating. Who here has questions about initiating? Because if you do, raise your hand, say yes, because I want everyone to see initiating is a really, really difficult thing to know. What do I do? How much is too much? How much is enough? And do I do any initiating? I mean, initiating is a really hot topic. So I'm really glad you asked this, Lisa. Is it okay to just ask if they'd like to grab some coffee sometime if he's a true gentleman? So I'm assuming you mean like he's old-fashioned, he's traditional, he's more like, yeah, he's like the guy who treats you like a lady. Like when they've made sure you have their number and made sure they have yours. I don't want to be chasing a guy ever again, and I don't want to also be too old-fashioned and waiting either. But I also know that when someone has either ended a relationship or has completed a divorce from a long-term marriage, they need time to heal. So I guess my question is it best to just be patient and just wait? I think I already know the answer, because that's what I feel the most peace in doing. And of course, living and enjoying my life, as I know, that's usually when things happen. So whatever will be too. I just want to have my radar up and not miss a chance ever again. Okay, so here's the thing about this. If you are okay with initiating in general, then it's okay to ask someone. I don't think I would go directly with the coffee. What I would say something like, okay, so you asked if they'd like to grab coffee sometime. That's a good kind of segue into it. But I think I would start first with something more casual. And again, unless you are okay with initiating, because what's going to happen here is you're setting a precedent. You're letting this guy know that you're fine with initiating sometimes. That this is kind of like an even give and take, even flow thing, right? So both of you are going to be able to communicate. Both of you are going to be able to initiate. This is not just one or the other. So it's important to understand that if you're going to initiate here, but what you want is for him all the time to always be the one initiating, and you want to make sure you remove as much ambivalence as possible and what's going on or ambiguity, because you want to know for sure that he is going to be clear and you'll be able to tell that by him initiating. Then then this is going to throw things off, because if you initiate here, he's going to think, okay, well, she initiates sometime too. So the way I would look at this is I would look at all this as like friendships. I would take the feeling, the tone, the energy out of this for you, that this is anything more than friendships that you're forming. And then I would ask yourself, how would I be with meeting a friend? And I would be like, oh, hey, I would ask for some interest. Like, hey, I would do it around like, oh, you could talk about some movie that's out or something that something, or if it's some new restaurant in town or a new coffee shop or something, I would say, oh, you ever been there? Are you ever, like, I would start out with something super subtle that's more, not, would you like to grab coffee sometime? That's a little more direct than I think you should do initially. I think you should do something like a friend as you're getting to know someone, where it's more of, hey, have you ever tried this place? Have you ever been to, or it's a movie that's out. If you see movies, I heard there was this movie was out. Have you seen it yet? Something like that. that is just kind of can be a segue into something more. That's what I would do. That's what I would do there. Okay. And then before I bring my husband on, I got one last one. And that is, okay. Actually, was there something here? Let me get to this. Oh, Beverly, let's answer you real quick. How long should you wait for him to say he loves you? You mean before you leave him? Before you say you love him first? Before you, you know what? I'm not sure exactly what you're saying there, but what I would do is, I wouldn't get hung up on him saying I love you. We want to hear that, and I know that means so much, but I would literally be looking at his actions. What is he showing you? I know a lot of men are a little bit slow on the I love you word, but what I would be waiting there for is I would be looking for the actions. I would need to see actions. I would be gauging whether or not someone loves you by how they treat you. Honestly, I have heard so much of the I love yous early on. They sound awesome. They feel so good. And then I've seen where that goes and how the actions weren't already there, and it didn't turn out. It wasn't panning out the way that it needed to. It wasn't love. Love doesn't look like someone who says I love you and then gives no actions to back that up. So I would not do that, because I would not do that way. Okay, I'm getting in here to the other ones, and okay, there we go. Okay, of course I brought up a bunch of stuff because I hit the wrong buttons. Okay, so I think, Beverly, I hope that helps. And Nancy, I think I answered yours in there, and Heidi. Okay, thanks everyone. I think those are good. Okay, so I want to make sure I didn't have anyone else who was jumping off. I just wanted to answer you, Karen, real quick. Karen says she's been dating the same man for 3 years. He hasn't invited her to any family event yet. She knew his first wife, and so she said, I knew his first wife. I realized she might be upset. But he was married to someone else for almost 20 years. I met his late wife's family. They welcomed me. And her brother told me I'm welcome at their place anytime. So he has 2 sons and a daughter with his first wife, and it's the daughter who's opposed to us dating. Okay, so the daughter is not comfortable with you. And I think it's because her mother is upset, but I can't do anything about that. So it sounds like this guy was married like 3 times. But it does make things difficult. Any suggestions? Okay, so if he hasn't invited you to any family event, he's trying to sort this out. This is a difficult thing. I talk to women about this all the time, because a lot of times the woman, a lot of times this is divorce and she's bitter and she's not comfortable. And then a lot of times one of the kids is siding with that mom out of loyalty to the ex, and it makes things really difficult. Absolutely. So you know what, Karen, this is one where you have to recognize that this in time, when the daughter gets older, you didn't say how old she is. I'm assuming she's an adult. As she gets older, I think some of this bitterness might go away a little bit. I've seen that happen. I have seen that happen where she comes around and it gets better. I've also seen things get better with, as time goes by, the ex-wife moves on with someone, or it's not as big of a deal as she thought it was, or she, it becomes a little more emotionally mature, or more time and space. What you have to do is it does make things difficult. So acknowledging that, yeah, but you need to wait for him to be ready. It is not something. This is something men don't want to rock the boat. Most men like this are good men. They do not want to rock the boat. They don't want to make things awkward. They don't want to do that. So I would not push this. I would just recognize that he's going to come to this in time, because it will be easier for him. But right now it's not. And I would let it go with that. I would let it go, because otherwise it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard otherwise to go through this. So that's what I would do here. Okay. And then, yeah. And okay. And that was that one there. All right. Let me just tell my husband that I am ready for him. I'm going to get to another one while he's making his way. Okay. So, all right. I hope that helps. I hope these are helping. Hope what we're talking about is helping you. The one that I wanted to get to, Jennifer or Jessica, that yours is a long one, and I wanted to answer that. So before I bring my husband on, I just want to say, essentially, I'm going to summarize Jessica's real quick because I want to get to an answer for her. They've been going back and forth with the kind of, it's her ex and he has an ex, and it's complicated things, and there's been blocking and unblocking, and there's been who's right, who's wrong. So basically you guys are in a cycle, Jessica, of this back and forth and blame and getting back together, and then bringing the ex into it, and then feeling that it's not appropriate for him to be friends with his ex on Facebook, and then him being resentful because he deletes his ex on Facebook, but then he's resentful because he does it because of your insecurities. So I got the gist of it. It's this, you guys are getting caught up in this cycle. It is going to be a never-ending cycle unless one of you calls it out and says, we are caught in this cycle. And what we are doing is going around and around with who's right, who's wrong. And it is a cycle. And either we are going to leave the past behind. We're going to understand that when you have exes, it makes everybody insecure. And we're not going to play the game of bringing the ex into it to make more drama. We're either in this because we're committed to it or we're not. And I would cut through all the BS, and I would literally say to each other, and in this case, Jessica, it would be you saying to him, I would say, we're not doing this anymore. We are either committed to making this work between the two of us, and we're going to keep everyone else out of it. And if I'm not feeling comfortable with you having her as on social media, this is who I am. And if you aren't comfortable with it, if you don't like this about me, this is who I am. So we're going to look at what is. This is how I feel. Tell me how you feel. If there needs to be clarification, we're either going to make this work or we're not. But this back and forth cycling around, I think we've cycled through here, I don't know how many times, right? You guys got to get off of this spiral. Okay, it just goes around and around, and you guys are spiraling down every time, and then you come up a little bit and then back down, and it's not working. So one of you needs to say this, and one of you needs to end this, or move forward. And I can tell you, I think it's going to have to be you, Jessica, because I think he likes, as much as he might say he doesn't like the drama, I think he likes the drama. I think he does. I think he's got something in his past that he likes it. And I think he keeps doing this and putting it on you because this is what he does. Okay, so that's it. Okay. All right. So, hi. I am so excited because you saw it was our 20th anniversary. It's been a while. So this is my husband, Nick.
Hi, everyone.
It has been a long time. I have not brought him on. He is actually You're a little tall there.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's much. Are you shyer than I am? Is that what it is? So I'm more the person who's always can't wait to meet everybody. He's been a little bit shy with meeting everyone.
I'm more behind the scenes.
He's more behind the scenes here, but yeah, this is the guy. I think you saw him on my social media pictures and what we look like 20 years ago.
Yeah, right.
So
right.
this is us now today.
Hair's a little darker.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so this is Nick, and this is everybody you're gonna get to meet. There was one question for you.
Okay.
I told Anne that I was gonna have you answer that, and so Anne wanted to know what was the turnkey. Oh, she had one for me. Oh, Anne, I missed it. Okay, we're gonna go to hits. What was it that made you feel that you needed to get to know me, to approach me in the first place? So what was it that made you feel, what was it about? What was it about?
Okay. That was an easy one. I remember specifically that it was your energy, your positivity and your smile. And I remember, I think I even said that to you when we first met.
Yeah.
I said, geez, you look so happy and smiling. And I said, I just had to come over and say hello. Yeah, you were kind of just exuding this happiness and optimism, and it was very, very compelling. I just literally said, I have to meet this girl. So that's what did it.
And the rest was history. Yeah. And we actually met twice, because that time that we're talking about, we met the first time there, and neither of us were ready yet for each other. So what were you saying? Okay. So that was the first time that we met, and we actually went out on one date, and we both weren't quite ready. I still was, I had this idea. Nick was really down to earth. I wasn't. I was still needing to explore all the men. I wanted to see, well, not all the men, but I wanted to explore more. And Nick had gone through a breakup, and so he was still. You were doing stuff with your guy friends. You were snowboarding and scuba diving, doing all your mountain. Yeah, he was doing all that stuff. So he was not yet ready for.
And I thought you weren't interested.
He thought I wasn't interested. I had just moved down from Vancouver to It was like 3 months into that, or 2. Yeah, not long. So I hadn't. So he thought that I was not that interested. So we went on that one date. And that was it. And then a year and 3 months.
About a year, yeah.
Yeah. Later, we bump into each other. Literally bump into each other. And both of our friends had dragged us out. Some colleagues from work were like, I was in for the night, no makeup.
Yep.
And
I didn't want to go out.
He didn't want to go
out.
out.
My friends drugged me out. Your friends drugged you out.
Yeah. And we ended up meeting, and I recognized him. And I saw this guy across the room, and I was like, I started laughing, because I knew him from exactly then. We had gone out on a date, and he came up and he said, where do I know you from? I knew exactly where I knew him from. Where do I know you from? And I said, oh, we went on a date once, and you never called me back. So and we laughed, we had this conversation, and at that point we were ready for each other. So it was a whole other thing. He got my number.
Called
me the next day. Yeah. And then the rest was history.
Right. Yeah.
So here we are. So and that second time, that's why I say the universe, whatever you believe in, it rises to meet you. When you have intention, when you know, because I had to know. So Anne, you did ask me that, so I'll just say real quick. She wanted to know what was the turnkey action step or steps that I took to attract Nick, to get, So what it was for me is that I gave up the search. I gave up the striving. I gave up. So I want to clarify. I still wanted to I became intentional. I was not fooling around. I wanted to be married. I wanted someone serious. I wanted a committed relationship. And so I stopped settling for the crumbs. And that meant I gave up chasing. I gave up trying so hard. I gave up all that. And I started focusing on developing my life, because for real, if I was going to meet someone and be in a committed relationship with someone and get married and have everything I wanted to, I needed to figure out the clarity, and I needed to know exactly who I was, what I was about, so that I would attract someone who clearly was going to be meant for me, the real me. So that's how I did it, Anne. And here he came. Yeah. 20 years later, we live to tell the story. All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here, and I'm just glad you got to meet Nick. So now you know who the guy that I'm talking about is. And yeah, thanks for coming on and being here.
Bye, everyone. Have a good evening.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, you can go now. We'll let you go. All right. Yeah, so you can go back and listen to the replay. The part about oversharing, if any of you missed that, and initiating, I think oversharing and initiating are the two things. If you're just coming on, I really stress those points. I really talked a lot about that, as well as some other things. We got that on there. And so, yeah, listen in. The other thing, I'm running a promotion in celebration of our 20 years that we made it. I'm running a special promotion because it has taken so much communication. Okay? So much communication. And this is why I also sent some emails looking for your input. I'm doing workshops. Okay? We're going to be doing workshops. And we're going to be talking about communication. Every one of those workshops, thank you so much for all your feedback and your input on all the topics. Because every one of those, I am going to have communication as the topic within those topics. Communication is key. I have been communicating for 20 years with my husband. And I think you got from that email that I sent that it has not all been this happily ever after. It has been very real. Like happily ever after is so cliche. What we have done is real. Okay. And the stuff that we have that is so opposite, I mean, that's real stuff. So what we're going to talk about is how to communicate. Because when you say, like, what are the words? Well, the words are there, but even more than the words, the energy behind your words, the intention, the feeling, how you feel, how your confidence about having the right to feel. Like, I go back to what we were talking about there, like the shame piece, right? Like communicating when you feel ashamed or embarrassed, or like you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. Okay, that is a whole different kind of communication that comes across. You are communicating in 90% other ways other than your words, and that comes through. So it is so important to have so many other parts of this beyond just the verbal words. And that is what we're going to nail down for you, because I'll tell you, when Nick and I communicate, okay, it is a communication thing that identifies that allows space for who both of us are. We are not a perfect couple. We are a couple that has worked through our differences, because the stuff that I love about him also drives me crazy about him. The stuff that he loves about me, on the other side of it, drives him crazy sometimes about me. And so we have had to learn to not let that build with the resentment that can come from those little things. Those of you who've been married before and divorced, you know how this goes. So there's a lot of things that come up with resentment, all that. So my goal is to teach you how to do that, how to have the best relationships, and how to know when to end something, how to know when it's time, and how to know when to stay with it, and when to actually turn to your communication skills to see if this is salvageable, and how to know in the first place if it is or not. Okay, that's a mouthful. Yeah, so check your email. There's a special that's going to be ending on Monday. I think you got 2 more dates before my special that I'm offering on that is going to be ending. Yeah, so check your email for that. I think there's a link in there. Use that link. Don't use any other links, and use that one because that's going to have the special on there. And we'll talk about all of this and more. But I'm so glad you guys all joined me tonight. And I'm so glad you could be here. And thanks for coming. Thanks for your input and your comments and your feedback and all that. And yeah, I love hearing you on here. And I'm so glad this is resonating with you. Yes, yeah, Nick and I are opposite in a lot of ways. But our hearts are what unite us. And our hearts are what has kept us together. And how to look for a guy with the heart, right? Because a lot of times it's hard to know. How do you know that? Well, there's a way to know if you've got the right guy with your heart early on. And that's what matters more than any differences. If you've got that heart, that will see you through so much. All right. Thanks for being here. Have a good night, everyone, or good morning if you're waking up somewhere. If you're watching the replay, thanks for watching. And yeah, let me know in the comments if you have an update, if I missed something on there too. All right, I'll try and answer in the comments when the replay's up too. All right, take care, everyone. Love you guys, and I'll see you soon.